I lost my V card to a 37-year-old woman, and now a 14-year-old girl has reached out to me claiming I'm her father. It's been a weird couple of days for me. I need to get this off my chest. This all started on Friday when I got a Facebook message from an old colleague telling me my daughter was trying to get in contact with me. I hadn't heard from this person in years, so I was skeptical at first, but I decided to hear them out. The girl in question has recently lost her mother to cancer, and the man who she thought was her father turned around and told her she wasn't his and kicked her out. She moved in with her uncle, thankfully, but ever since she's been looking for her real dad. Anyways, around 15 years ago, I was a naive young man, barely in my 20s, working in a supermarket. When I started, I was buddied up with a 37-year-old woman who was drop dead gorgeous. Like I said, I was rather naive, so obviously I instantly became infatuated with her easygoing and tactile demeanor. Sadly, only a month after I started that job, she handed in her notice, and that spurred me to go for it and ask her out on a date. She laughed and agreed. And so it started the wildest 3 months of my life. I won't go into details, but we were intimate on a handful of occasions, and I even stupidly confessed my love to her, but it was then she told me she was moving away to be with her fiance, which left me absolutely heartbroken. Later, a colleague would tell me that she was also seeing a guy who worked on the checkouts at the same time she was seeing me. For now, back to the present day, I had all but forgot about it. I have 2 kids and a very pregnant wife to think about after all, so this has somewhat knocked me sideways. I feel for the kid having her whole world torn apart so abruptly, but the thing is, I don't think I'm her father. Though I was young and foolish, I always used protection, but there is a part of me that hopes I am, as I can provide the loving family that she is so desperately looking for. I haven't told my wife yet because she is 8 months pregnant with our 3rd child and has enough to worry about, but I've arranged a paternity test. Another thought that crossed my mind that she is contacting me first because I am the better prospect. As I went on to bigger and better things while the other guy still works on the checkouts at the same store 15 years later, and from what I've been told, has a bit of a problem with alcohol. And so I'm also angry at the man who raised her, playing dad all those years, only to callously abandon her when she needed him the most. I'm also angry and sad that I might have missed out on so much of my potential daughter's childhood. The wife knows something's up, so I think I'm gonna bite the bullet and tell her I just had to get this off my chest. Update. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up so much. I have an update on the situation, so I sat my wife down and told her everything this morning, like most of you have been suggesting. After giving me a severe tongue lashing for not telling her sooner, my wife said probably the most sensible thing I've heard, which is I should try and contact the girl's uncle to verify her story, and boy, am I glad I did. You see, I had made one fatal assumption, which was that the stepfather was the same person as the fiance. Turns out checkout guy found out about the baby and claimed she was his. The fiance broke things off after finding out about her infidelity and decided to move abroad. Checkout guy got a paternity test when the girl was born, and he wasn't the father, but he only did it to try and get back together with her, which obviously failed miserably. The stepfather didn't come along until a year or 2 later after the girl was born. He's been having a hard time dealing with the death of his wife, and after a particularly bad argument, decided the best thing was for the girl to go and stay with her uncle, who is an absolutely lovely guy and actually remembered me, even though I had only met him briefly in the past. Anyway, she's happy and safe at her uncle's. It's close to her school, and she gets on well with her cousins. The crazy thing is that they weren't actually looking for me. I just happened to have the same first name as the fiance. The young lady jumped the gun in getting in contact with me, but they are 99% sure that the fiance is her father. This is when my wife made another sensible suggestion. Go, love that woman so much, and asked for the girl's birthday so we can match up the dates. And they don't quite match up, but I'm still going through with the paternity test just in case. The thing is, now I have to put up with the odd rendition of Billy Jean from My Beloved, which is probably going to last a few weeks before it gets old. I should explain why I didn't immediately tell my wife about this. You see, I was just panicking about the whole situation, and though she is a caring and understanding woman, she can be rather ferocious. Needless to say, I try not to find myself on the sharp end of her tongue. Also, she is 8 months pregnant, and it has been a difficult pregnancy for her, and I didn't want to add any extra stress, but as many of you have pointed out, it would have only been worse if I had not said anything. I I'd do a fresh post since the other one was getting quite long. For those who haven't read my first one, the title pretty much sums it up, and I left it waiting for the results of the paternity test, but it didn't look very likely while the results are in. First though, so I want to tell you guys about something that happened on Thursday. I was minding my own business, cooking the kids dinner, when my wife starts calling my name and telling me to come quick. I rush into the living room and she's flapping her arms like a mad woman and pointing at her phone. Your story's on TikTok. She yells excitedly. FML, that woman nearly gave me a heart attack. I was shitting a brick thinking that her waters had broken early, so thanks for that. Right, so back to the results. And I am not the father. I know some of you have said I should adopt her anyway, but personally, I think that would be highly inappropriate. Also, one critical point I forgot to mention is that I actually live in Norway and she is in the UK, so it wouldn't be practical. However, that isn't the end of the story, far from it, in fact. Because even though I am not her father, we have enough common DNA to be fairly close cousins. This was when it hit me, Cousin Jeff, not his real name. Cousin Jeff, the son of my dad's oldest brother, and is 12 years my senior and incidentally my wife's stepbrother. He had found out about me and the ex after bumping into us on a night out and promptly told my entire family just to embarrass me. Needless to say, he is a massive dick. Anyway, around the time I was moping around after getting my heart broken, Jeff was making lots of cryptic remarks about sloppy seconds, his words. Not mine. I didn't think anything of it at the time because he always enjoyed winding me up and had only been married to his now ex-wife for around 18 months, but now I'm not sure. Jeff has twin daughters in their early 20s who are on good terms with my wife. So we reached out to them first since they know how to handle it. They said they would get him to do a DNA test even if they had to resort to bully him into it, but as of this moment, that's as far as we know. Here's for the young lady who contacted me. My wife has been in contact with her every day and has been super supportive. We get on really well with her uncle and his wife, so she may not have found the father she was expecting, but she has found a load of cousins that will welcome her into the family with open arms. I just want to thank everyone who has taken the time to read my post and send me such supportive messages. Also, I want to apologize if anything sounded a bit odd, since despite being from the UK, I've lived in Norway for nearly 10 years now, and I sometimes forget how to speak English, which is weird. And finally, I think everyone is being a bit harsh on the stepfather. And to be honest, I was in my initial post for sending the girl to live with her uncle. He wasn't coping after the death of his wife, but saw that he was just hurting his stepdaughter. So he sent her away so she didn't have to be around. From what I've been told, they're going to therapy and hope to mend their relationship. And I wish him all the best, because even though he isn't her dad by blood, he's the only dad she's ever known. Final update. Accidentally caused a load of drama and got my cousin disinherited. Anyone who has read my previous post will know that a few weeks ago, a 14-year-old girl, Kelly, contacted me hoping I was her father. Sadly, I was not, but we did have enough DNA in common to be cousins. While I instantly thought of my cousin Jeff, since he was the only person who also knew Emma, Kelly's mother. So here's what happened next. Just a note, I'm not using anyone's real name. First bit of background on Jeff and I. He is the son of my dad's eldest brother, Jack. And so there is a 12-year gap between us, which may be why he doesn't like me, but every chance he has to upset or embarrass me, he's taken. I've already mentioned how 14 years ago, he outed my brief relationship with an older woman to the whole family, Kelly's mother. Emmett, but that is the tip of the iceberg. He caused a fuss when I moved to Norway to work for his dad. He tried to claim that marrying my wife Inga was wrong because we were step cousins, and has claimed every one of my children are incest babies. I don't know what he thinks incest is. My wife and I are only related by marriage twice over first Uncle Jack and Inga's mother, and secondly, our own. Personally, I think he doesn't like the fact that I have a better relationship with his dad and that my children call Uncle Jack granddad. Needless to say, we don't really talk that much. Back to the present moment. I decided to talk Jeff's daughters, Abby and Rose, about Kelly, since Inga is their favorite step auntie and they know how to handle it. And now I would have posted sooner, but it was then that my wife went into labor a few weeks early and the matter got pushed back in my list of priorities. You'll all be glad to know that both Inga and the baby are perfectly fine, but does that matter? All said down, I get a phone call from cousin Jeff, not congratulating me on the birth of my son, but rather a foul-mouthed tirade about minding my own business. To get to the crux of the matter, Kelly is his daughter. He's known since she was born as Emma, forced him to get a paternity test. He signed away his paternal rights and gave Emma $30,000 to never darken his door again. He admitted all this to his daughters after a week of bullying him into telling them the truth. I don't know why Emma never told Kelly about this before she died, but I'm sure she had her reasons. The fallout of this revelation has been spectacular. Aside from his ex-wife giving him more grief, his second wife isn't too happy that he lied to her, and Uncle Jack is disgusted with him to the point that Jeff has been written out of the will entirely. This was a particular sore point for Jeff since he was set to inherit quite a large amount of money, which is now going to be divided between Uncle Jack's 3 granddaughters, Abby, Rose, and now Kelly. Uncle Jack has also invited Kelly and her family over to Norway for Christmas and is keen to build a relationship with his newly found granddaughter. Jeff has been invited too, but whether or not he decides to turn up is another matter. Abby and Rose have already met up with Kelly. Funny thing is, all this time they've only lived a few miles apart from each other. The thing is, Jeff blames me for exposing him, claiming I should have talked to him first before telling his daughters, who in turn told their mother and in turn told the whole family. I cannot deny that it is quite satisfying to see him squirm since he has caused me so much grief in the past, but I am not a petty person and only approached his daughters because I knew he'd tell me to bugger off. Though, aside from the one phone call, he hasn't harassed me any further, so hopefully that continues to be the case. But with Cousins Jeff, you can never be sure what he'll do. Am I the asshole for breaking my deathbed promise to my wife to take care of her Down syndrome daughter? Actually, by 55 male, just lost my wife. 56 female to cancer. My late wife's entire life was about her 30-year-old daughter who suffers from Down syndrome and has never and will never have the ability to live independently, nor will she ever have the ability to ever exercise any real amount of emotional impulse control. And before you all start in on the evil stepdad who doesn't care to understand line of thinking, I want to add that I have been in her life since she was 5 and spent years fearing the day where she was physically developed to the point where punches, scratches, and throwing things were a real threat. Once that happened, all of my wife's friends stopped visiting our house. One of them even said that her uncle deals with vicious dogs for a living and she feels safer around his workplace than at our house. Many times I've ended up needing to go to the doctors for the crime of sitting in the same room as my stepdaughter and having her attempt to pound my head in, throw a heavy object at me, or trying to choke me after I'd fallen asleep. My late wife was the only one who could reliably calm her down. When we started using caregivers for my stepdaughter after my wife was diagnosed, they would be asking me whether I could enlighten them on a better way to explain things to my stepdaughter when she was going ballistic. And even they, who were used to explaining things to people who just didn't get things, were still struggling and asking for insight. When my late wife was diagnosed, the first word out of her mouth was my stepdaughter's name. She cried every day for what was to become of her. In her desperation, she tried to press the doctor for chemotherapy when it no longer made sense, turned to alternative medicine, despite it making her feel worse, saying she would have stopped all treatment if she was only leaving behind an employable, functioning 30-year-old. On her deathbed, she made me promise to not let her fall into the hands of a state care facility. I promised her because I didn't have the heart not to. But now, after my grief fog has cleared 2 months later, my stepdaughter remains the same. She doesn't understand her mom is dead, only that she's gone, and is angry at me for it, saying she'll be good, so bring her back. Caregivers are expensive. I don't make much. I didn't resent any medical expenses when it was my wife, but I admit that I resent my stepdaughter, my own grown kids, won't visit with her around. I hadn't made the deathbed promise. The decision would have been easy. Finally, I made the decision that I needed to put her in a state-run facility. As even with my wife leaving me everything, I couldn't afford anything better. Now, family are calling me the evil stepdad and a mother's worst nightmare. Am I the asshole? The asshole for breaking up with my girlfriend after she rejected my proposal twice. Sierra and I have been dating for 4 years. I absolutely love her and felt like she was my soulmate. I knew I wanted to propose 2 years into dating, but decided to wait 1 more year so that I could get in a better situation financially. Last year, I proposed. It was a private proposal on the beach where we went on our first date. She looked at me and said, I want to marry you, but not right now. She said she wasn't in the right space personally to get engaged and to give her some time. That stung, but I was okay with it. After all, I put off proposing so I can be in a good position. It's only fair I give her the chance. It's been a year since then, and I decided to propose again. This time I asked our friends to help me set it up because I wanted to do something nicer. We orchestrated a nice dinner and a proposal in front of a nice fountain in the city's botanical garden. Everything was ready. Dinner went great, and we went to the fountain. She saw the roses and everything, and then I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She teared up and told me not just yet. It stung really bad. I knew I wanted her in my life forever, but this is the second time she turned me down. I asked her why, and she told me the same thing as last year. I asked her if someone was holding her back, maybe family or friend, and she just said, I just want to make sure that this will work. This hurt me more than the 2 rejections. I told her if after 4 years she isn't sure, then what the hell will make her sure? She asked me to give her time, and I told her no. I told her that I'm not going to keep wasting my time and love if she's going to keep saying no. I told her that I can't do this anymore. She began begging me not to leave and said, fine, I'll marry you. Just please don't go. That made me mad, but I didn't say anything. I left. My phone has been blowing up with some of our friends, her parents, and her telling me that I'm an asshole for throwing away a 4-year relationship because she said no and then I was being a big baby. She just needs some time. The other half of our friends aren't on my side, but they're not on hers either. I don't think I'm an asshole for this. Did I overreact? Am I an asshole? If so, how much more time am I supposed to give her? We are both 29 years old. Edit 2. The second proposal wasn't done in front of my friends. They just helped me plan it and stuff. It was just her and I. Edit 3. We had discussed marriage shortly before I proposed the first time. She was into it, and even told me that she couldn't see herself with anyone else. She seemed eager about the idea of marriage, which is why I was shocked the first time and then angry the second time.
Am I the asshole for telling my husband, if he fights for custody of his kids, I will divorce him? I'm a 27 female and vehemently child-free. I am sterilised and have no intention of having or caring for any child. I married my husband, 33 male, last year and did not know he had any children until 5 days ago. I travel for work for myself and have amazing pay for very few active working hours. I'm a honeymoon planner, owning my own business. We have a joint account for bills and our own separate accounts for savings and fun money. My husband sat me down 5 days ago and told me he hadn't been completely honest with me and revealed he has 2 children, 10 male and 7 female. He pays regular child support, however, it dips into his fun money and he wants to be able to have fun like I am. So he said he would fight for 50-50 custody. I was furious he had lied to me and was even more angry when he told me he wanted 50-50. He works 12 16-hour shifts as a nurse, and that would mean I would have to take care of the children when I'm not working or are working from home. I told him if he fights for custody, I will leave him. We have a prenup, so a divorce will be rather simple. I get 100 of my business, all of my savings and fun money, and the house, as I inherited it from my grandmother. He called me an asshole and told me I should step up so that he can have more money in his savings and for fun, and because the kids won't be much hassle due to their ages. So am I the asshole for telling him I will divorce him if he goes through with filing for custody? Update. Thank you all so much for helping me with this situation. I knew his lies were enough of a reason to divorce Mai, and I'm proud to announce soon-to-be ex. I just didn't know if divorcing him with kids in the mix would make me an asshole, especially because he works so much. He has since vacated my house. I have spoken to my lawyer and am filing for an annulment. I can because he married me in an act of fraud. The AMA protects me as it was a fraudulent marriage. Thank you all once again. I found out that my sister was my biological mom. I was 16 years old. Going through the usual ups and downs of teenage life, my sister, who was 30, still lived at our parents' house, juggling part-time work and her pursuit of a college degree. She had always been there for me, spending more time with me than our busy parents ever could. I cherished our bond and believed we had the best relationship in the world. However, there was always a cloud of tension between my sister and our mom. They would argue and clash over the smallest things, and sometimes their arguments revolved around me. I would overhear my name amidst their heated exchanges. But whenever I asked them what was going on, they would brush me off or provide vague explanations that never made much sense. One fateful day, my sister arrived home drunk for the first time ever. It was clear that she had been to a wild party, something our conservative Christian parents would never approve of. My mum, enraged by her behaviour, started yelling at her, criticising her and slut-shaming her in front of me. The situation escalated quickly when my mum uttered the words that shattered my sister's heart. "Haven't you got no shame for all the burden you brought to our family? Don't you see how much pain and money you caused your father and me? Giving birth to you was my biggest mistake." Those words cut deep, piercing my sister's vulnerable state. In a fit of anguish, she lashed out at our mother, pleading for her to stop and claiming that she had it worse. It was in that raw, emotional moment that my sister's facade crumbled, and she confessed something to me that I could hardly believe. With tears streaming down her face, she looked into my eyes and whispered, "I am your biological mother." The revelation hit me like a tidal wave, crashing over my previous understanding of our family dynamics. I stood there in shock, struggling to comprehend the weight of her words. She went on to explain how, when she was young and unprepared to raise a child, she had given birth to me. Our parents, aware of the situation, had made the difficult decision to raise me as their own. They created the story that my sister was my older sister, shielding me from the truth until this moment. As the truth settled in, a mix of emotions washed over me. I felt a strange sense of gratitude for my sister's sacrifice and love, but also a profound sadness that our lives had been built upon a foundation of secrecy. The arguments between my sister and our mum suddenly took on a new meaning, as the tension between them had always been rooted in this hidden truth. In the days that followed, my sister and I had countless conversations, piecing together the fragments of our shared past. It was bittersweet, discovering the depth of our connection, but also grappling with the complexities of our family dynamics. Our parents, aware that the truth had been revealed, approached us with a mix of remorse, love, and the desire to rebuild trust. Our world had been shaken. My sister and I grew closer than ever before. We became each other's confidants, supporting one another through the emotional turmoil that came with this newfound knowledge. Together, we navigated the uncharted waters of our transformed relationship, learning to redefine what it meant to be sisters and mother and daughter. In the end, our bond remained unbreakable, strengthened by the truth we now shared. It was a journey of healing, forgiveness, and understanding as we embraced the complexities of our family story and worked towards a future filled with love and acceptance. Is my boyfriend just using me? So me, 21, female, and my boyfriend, 22, male, have been dating for 2 years. We're in a long-distance relationship and we've only been physically together for about 2 months in total out of the 2 years we've been dating. My boyfriend is basically broke and has been in and out of different jobs for years. He'd been living with his mom, but as of now, he lives with some friends who are taking care of him while he tries to look for jobs. He has never been to my home country, and the only times we've been together have been thanks to me travelling to his country and staying with him. I've paid for everything while I'm visiting him. His food, an apartment for us to stay in, my flights there and back home, shopping, transportation, etc. I've always bought or handmade him thoughtful gifts, and even gave him my 2 old phones. He ended up giving the other phone to his little brother. And although I do not appreciate regifting, his family is not well off, so I didn't mind it. All in all, I've embarrassingly spent probably close to 10 on this man. Money is not really an issue for me. I took 2 gap years after high school and worked full-time while living with my parents. I'm very grateful for the possibility to do so, and I was able to save up a good amount of money. But currently, I'm a university student living on my own. I have never had any issue with spending money on people I love. Acts of service and gift-giving serving are my love languages, and making others happy makes me happy. The problem is, I have never gotten anything from him, even when he has had the money to do something in return. No flowers, no gifts, no love letter. I don't think a gift has to cost much or anything at all. There are so many things in this world that can be handmade or done with very little effort or money. Not once has he offered to pay for dinner or get me anything at all. But earlier this year, he promised to take me on a trip. He said he'd pay for everything. Later on, it turned into him only paying for his own ticket or the hotel. And then on the day of booking the trip, he tells me he doesn't have any money, because he sent his paycheck to his mom, who I've never been allowed to meet Bardo, and he's always talking about what an awful mother she is and only cares about money. This has been an ongoing issue for a long time. He's basically always providing everything he makes to his mom and used to borrow money from me because he didn't have money for food. In total, I've borrowed him around $400 throughout the years. And at this point, I've lost hope in ever getting paid back. Even though I know and understand that he can't treat me the same way I treat him, the problem is even when he has had the opportunity to do something for me, he always ends up placing me second. We've done so much for him, and then getting nothing in return just makes me feel completely unappreciated and used. I think the saying, if he wanted to, he would, is so fitting, because I truly think that if you care about a person, you will make the effort and see the efforts you've received. Long distance is hard, but I've never been worried about cheating. The problem is just the lack of communication. I think a call every day is not too much to ask for. If a call isn't possible on some days, at least an hour or two of dedicated, undivided time for texting would be ideal. But unfortunately, we only call maybe once a week or every other week. I always have to beg for a FaceTime call, but either he's too busy with something else or he doesn't want to call because his friends are going to interrupt and listen. The only times he calls me is when he has something to tell me. Never really cares about if I have something I want to call about. Sometimes he has agreed to call but then just ended up playing games with his friends and expected me to just quietly watch. My breaking point might have been yesterday. It was our 2-year anniversary and I had planned for us both to order a pizza and eat together on FaceTime while just talking and catching up. He recently got a freelancing job and has a deadline of 4 days for a project. So when I asked for a call on our anniversary, he was very sorry about not having the time for that because of the project. I was honestly sad, but he's been looking for a good paying job for a long time. So I'm proud of him for finally getting hired, and I understood the situation. We can always celebrate on another day. Right, I did tell him that I could just watch him work on FaceTime. I just wanted to actually see him and spend time together because it was our anniversary after all. But it turned into an argument and we just ended up not talking for the whole day. I was then scrolling my Instagram discovery page out of boredom and came across a picture of a girl in lingerie posted 2 hours ago, and liked by my boyfriend, followed 2 on top of that. Honestly, I just burst into tears on that same second. I'm not the crazy jealous type. And I don't mind celebrity crushes, and I know we're all humans and we will see beautiful people as attractive. However, I am very much against showing attraction and attention for someone who is not me. If you're dating me, I want you to be respectful and not embarrass me by acting dumb on social media. Liking inappropriate pictures online is an intentional choice, and there's literally no need to be liking stuff like that if you're in a relationship. Seeing it and then acting on it is where it all goes wrong. So all I could think of was, he doesn't have time to talk to me on our anniversary, but has time to scroll social media and thirst over half-naked women. Honestly disgusting. Again, I'm just left feeling like a second option and not important enough, not pretty enough, never enough. I love him very much, and this short or pretty long text about the things he has done wrong are obviously not enough to give a whole picture of what kind of person he is. But I'm just tired. I want to feel loved and I want to be appreciated. I want to receive surprise gifts and feel seen. I love him a lot and we've been through a lot of stuff together. We're both each other's first everything, so that makes me feel even more devastated if this won't be the guy I marry. But I'm just starting to feel like he will never change. Financial issues affect all aspects of life. And mental health, and I try to keep hoping that things will get better as we grow and that it'll all be worth it in a few years and we'll moving together and all of that. But for now, I'm just so exhausted and I just want to hear what other people think. I never posted anything on Reddit, but I'm honestly just desperate for someone to hear me out. So here I am, sharing too much. Wanted to come on here to see if anyone is or has been in a similar situation in any way or just wants to give me some advice. Would love to hear stories from other people. I just want to add that even though I am fully aware of the unfairness in my relationship and the fact that I deserve the same amount of love I give, he is and will always be my best friend. As a boyfriend, he most definitely hasn't been the best, but as a friend, he means the world to me. So I want to defend him, and we've fought more during the past year than we have been on good terms. Well, I fought for things to work out, and so has he. And as sad as it sounds, it just feels too hard to let go of something I put so much of my energy and love into. I want to think that he is trying his best, but his efforts just aren't what I need or expect. He does seem to listen to my needs, and it's not like he has never changed his ways when it comes to certain things. Maybe what I wanted to say is that I just wish I wouldn't have to ask for change, or I just wished I'd be worth changing for. But hearing these replies hurts because I know everyone is right and I know everyone is telling me what I need to hear. But the truth king hurts at core we allowed to curse here, aren't I? thank you to everyone for the replies.